Sergeant Rob Shear. Sergeant Rob Shear. Good?
Yeah.
And no one needs to mic me up, right? We all have these? I'll give it to everybody. All right. Good to go. All right, we'll get started, everybody. First off, my name's Rob Shear, R-O-B-S-C-H-E-R-E-R. I'm a sergeant with the Phoenix Police Department's Public Affairs Bureau. Obviously, first off, thank you guys very much for your patience, and to the neighbors in this area, thank you for your patience up until now and for the next few hours while we're out here. Obviously, we're on the scene of an officer-involved shooting that occurred at a residence in the area of 32nd Street and Taylor, more 33rd Street and Taylor. This incident began a little bit after 11 o'clock, approximately 10 minutes after 11, when we were called to a residence nearby, reference a check welfare. Details on the call indicated that a residence in this area had water actually running out of it. Two officers arrived on scene, attempted to make contact with those inside the house via the front door and the back door. At one point, while in the back of the residence, at the back door, the officers made contact with an adult male inside and began to speak with him. It was during this short contact with this adult male that the man actually pulled a handgun and directed it in the direction of the officers. Both officers initially retreated, at which time an exchange of gunfire between one officer and the man occurred. Officers retreated and established containment on the house, and members of our Tactical Support Bureau responded to the scene and took over the tactical elements of this incident. The man involved in the shooting was ultimately located inside the residence with at least one gunshot wound, and he was pronounced deceased on scene. At this point, as in all these incidents, there's kind of a two-pronged approach investigation-wise. We do have a criminal investigation ongoing, along with an internal investigation, and both will be conducted as we speak throughout, the scene and the residence and so forth. And again, as in these scenarios, this will take a good amount of time, at least a couple more hours. We appreciate the patience of the neighbors inside this area. We understand the difficulties of us shutting down the area, but we're going to go through this investigation. We're going to do what we do, make sure we don't overstep anything or miss anything. We do have body-worn cameras that were activated on both the officers that were involved, so we do have that element evidence-wise. And again, we have the best in the business homicide investigation-wise, and they're out here conducting the criminal investigation portion. And I'll take any questions. As you guys know, it's very, very young, so I don't have a ton of information, but I can get you, hopefully some of the questions. Yes?
You said that both those officers retreated and then they exchanged gunfire. Who shot first?
That'll be part of the ongoing investigation. We do at this point believe there is an exchange, so the man inside the house did fire his weapon at least one time, is what we believe at this point. Obviously, specifics on that and confirmations of all that as far as who shot first and if the man did in fact fire will be, decided at the conclusion of that investigation. Hopefully at that 14-day mark, we have our transparency policy, our 14-day, when we release our critical incident briefing. Hopefully by that point we'll have specifics on that and we'll be able to release it at that time.
You said the victim fired one time. How many times did the police shoot?
At this point, we believe the victim or the man fired at least one time. I don't have specifics on, I know the officer, we had one officer fire multiple rounds. Specifics on that I don't have. Yes. Go ahead.
From the time when the officer motion happened until you guys were able to enter the residence, how long was that period of time?
It was a little bit more than an hour. And in situations like this where there's a critical incident or a violent interaction like that, patrol officers are going to back away and establish containment on a residence and wait for our Tactical Support Bureau, who have the tools necessary and the training and expertise necessary to handle kind of a larger tactical scenario, which is what happened today.
And follow-up question, were there any residents inside besides the male?
No, the man was the only one inside the residence at the time.
Is it believed that gunshot wound was external or self-inflicted?
That'll come from the investigation, and hopefully again at that 14-day mark we should have an answer whether that was a self-inflicted wound that the man suffered or was actually a shot from an officer.
Was he the one that called about this water issue? Was it another resident? And when the officers arrived, did they actually see any water coming out? And why were officers going to the back?
Yeah,
not
there's
the front of the entrance.
Yeah, there was definitely you could tell there was water coming out of the residence
From the front, and the rear, the front.
from both. There's water on both sides of the residence. Attempt with the residents inside the house was attempted at the front first, and then at the back. And in situations where we're called in for kind of a check welfare, we're going to do every means we can to attempt to make sure the people inside are okay. You know, this is a call that officers are responding to where they're not expecting, you know, this isn't a shooting call. This isn't a fight call where there's kind of a violent interaction going on beforehand. This is kind of a check welfare where we're coming out to make sure the people inside this residence are okay. These officers didn't necessarily expect a violent encounter, and not that we go into scenarios expecting it at times, but this was one of those where, you know, we're going to make sure someone's okay, and that's what they were doing at that time.
And you said so there was another resident nearby that called in?
Yeah, I don't believe it was the person inside the resident. It was a residence that kind of noticed the water coming out.
Did they make contact with him? Like, how long would you say that period was that they were looking around trying to get an entry, see the water was coming from? Like, how long was the interaction with this?
So the call originally came in at 11:11. Contact or the officer involved shooting happened around 11:25, 11:24. So that includes obviously response time to get to the address, attempt to make contact to the front, make contact in the back, and then a short, you know, verbal contact between the man and one officer before.
Resolve where the water was coming from?
We solved it by turning the water off to the residents, but that specifically hasn't been resolved. No.
Do you have any details about the conversation that led up to the shooting?
No, I don't have specifics on that. I can tell you it was, you know, there was an element of, hey, this is why we're here. You know, is everybody okay? The water's running type thing. It was that type of conversation prior to the man producing a handgun.
And do you have any, do you know if any of the officers with the Special Assignments Unit fired their weapon as well?
No. We had one officer. It was one of the original patrol officers that responded to the scene. So anything else? Go ahead, one more.
I was just saying, any prior history with this residence?
I'm not specifically aware of that. Anything else I get to include names and things like that, I'll get out to a media advisory. I should send it out fairly shortly, and I'll see if I can release names at that time. And then obviously I'll update as we go forward. Okay?
You said an adult male? Are we talking about
Adult male.
20s, 30s, 40s, 60s? Do we have...
I don't have the specific age. I can just say adult male. All right? Thank you guys very much.